I just got another opportunity to enjoy this life experience, so that's why I'm super fantastic.
One of hip-hop's most promising voices is building his empire completely on his own. He isn't the first to do it, but you gotta admit that it's worth applauding. I'm referring to the one and only LaReezy, the independent rapper, producer, and visionary turning the soul of New Orleans into a movement. LaReezy didn't wait for the music industry to open doors. He built his own door and walked through it. Writing, producing, mixing, and releasing his own music, he crafted a sound he calls Louisiana, a blend of gritty 90s hip-hop energy and the smooth jazz spirit of his hometown. But this journey is bigger than music. LaReezy has turned his life experiences, struggles, and lessons about mental health and self-improvement into powerful storytelling that resonates with a new generation. Cosigns from respected artists, viral performances, and a relentless work ethic have made one thing clear. LaReezy isn't just another rapper from New Orleans. He's building a movement. Welcome to today's video, where we'll be diving into the life, grind, music, and vision of the rising artist who's proving that independence, authenticity, and purpose can still shake the hip-hop world. Before we get started, kindly give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Before the world ever recognized the name LaReezy, there was a boy named Khairy Salahuddin, born on September 8, 2004, in New Orleans, Louisiana. From the very beginning, his life was shaped by a city known for its rhythm, resilience, and raw honesty. New Orleans wasn't just the place he came from, it was the atmosphere that surrounded him, influenced him, and quietly helped define the way he saw the world. Growing up in that environment meant being exposed to stories early. Stories of struggle, survival, creativity, and pride. Music was everywhere, woven into daily life, echoing through streets and conversations. As a child, Khairy learned to observe more than he spoke, to listen closely, and to absorb what life was teaching him in real time. Nothing came easy, but every experience carried meaning. And he learned early that awareness was a form of strength. As he got older, he began to realize that he didn't move through life the same way as everyone else. There was a depth to his thinking, a curiosity that pushed him to question instead of conform. While others followed expected paths, Khairy often felt slightly out of place, as if he was meant for something that hadn't revealed itself yet. That feeling wasn't always comfortable, but it sharpened his sense of identity and taught him how to stand alone without losing his sense of direction. Creativity became his refuge. Expression wasn't something he did for fun, it was something he needed. Through music, words, and imagination, Khairy found a way to translate emotion into something tangible. Music, especially, became a mirror, reflecting his experiences, his surroundings, and his inner dialogue. Every moment, whether uplifting or painful, added another layer to the voice he was developing. The influence of New Orleans remained constant. The city's resilience, its culture, and its unfiltered reality shaped his mindset. He witnessed hardship up close, but he also witnessed perseverance. Instead of letting limitation define him, Khairy learned to turn adversity into motivation. He understood that struggle didn't have to be a stopping point, it could be a starting line. There came a moment, quiet but decisive, when he chose to commit fully to himself. Doubt was still present, but it no longer held control. He chose growth over comfort and belief over fear, understanding that progress didn't require immediate results, only consistency and purpose. That decision didn't change everything overnight, but it changed the direction of everything that followed. Every challenge built resilience, every setback added clarity, and every small victory strengthened his resolve. LaReezy wasn't created in a moment. It was shaped over time, through experience, intention, and an unwavering refusal to settle for less than his potential. And that was only the beginning of the story. As a teenager in New Orleans, LaReezy made the decision to take music seriously, recording his earliest songs with limited equipment and learning every part of the process himself. By the time he was 14, he wasn't just writing and rapping, he was producing, engineering, and shaping his sound from the ground up, treating music not as a hobby, but as a responsibility to grow every day. What set LaReezy apart early on was volume and discipline. While many artists waited for permission or validation, he released relentlessly, building a catalog that reflected his evolution in real time. His music carried a sense of reflection well beyond his age, blending introspection, social awareness, and personal accountability. That work ethic laid the foundation for his first major breakthrough in 2023, when the song "Birth" began gaining traction on TikTok, pulling new listeners into his world and drawing attention to his album Reborn. Reborn marked a turning point in LaReezy's professional life. Entirely self-crafted, the project positioned him not just as a rapper, but as a complete artist, writer, producer, and engineer. The album reflected a coming-of-age narrative, one rooted in growth, resilience, and purpose, and it resonated with listeners looking for substance as much as sound. Industry platforms began to take notice, praising his ability to balance lyrical depth with accessibility. Rather than chasing trends, LaReezy leaned deeper into intention. In 2024, he released We All Need Help, a project shaped by conversations about vulnerability, mental health, and healing. Co-produced with J-Boogs, the album expanded his audience and solidified his identity as a socially conscious artist, unafraid to address real-life struggles. The project was widely recognized for its honesty and emotional clarity, further separating him from peers focused solely on commercial appeal. As his music reached wider audiences, his presence extended beyond streaming platforms. LaReezy began performing on larger stages, including appearances at major festivals such as Essence Festival, and sharing stages with established artists like Wale and La Russell. Each performance reinforced his reputation as an artist with both command and message, someone who treated live shows as an extension of storytelling rather than spectacle. Parallel to his growth as a performer, LaReezy continued to build his professional identity as an independent creator. He maintained control over his production, visuals, and release strategy, cultivating a brand rooted in authenticity and consistency. His music videos, often grounded in real-life imagery and personal narrative, amassed millions of views across social platforms, helping him build a loyal and engaged fan base without sacrificing creative direction. By 2025, LaReezy was no longer emerging, he was establishing himself. Media outlets began identifying him as one of New Orleans' most promising young voices, noting his old soul perspective and refusal to waste opportunities. He spoke openly about the responsibility he felt toward listeners, viewing each song as potentially life-changing for someone who needed it in that moment. What began as a teenager recording with minimal resources has grown into a career defined by self-awareness, independence, and purpose. His rise hasn't been accidental, and it hasn't been rushed. It has been built carefully, song by song, decision by decision. Let us take a look at what the music industry has offered him. In return for hard work and resilience, I'm talking about earnings. When people ask about LaReezy's net worth, they often expect a single number, a headline figure that neatly summarizes success. But LaReezy's financial story doesn't live in a fixed total. It lives in momentum, ownership, and the quiet accumulation of value over time. As of now, LaReezy has not publicly disclosed an official net worth, and no major financial publication has released a verified estimate. What is clear, however, is how his professional choices have positioned him to build wealth differently from the traditional artist path. From the beginning of his career, LaReezy operated with independence in mind. By writing, producing, engineering, and often releasing his own music, he retained creative control and, more importantly, ownership. In an industry where revenue is frequently diluted across labels and intermediaries, ownership changes everything. Streaming has been a major pillar of that foundation. With a growing catalog of albums, EPs, singles, and collaborations, LaReezy earns recurring income through platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. These earnings may not explode overnight, but they compound. Each new listener doesn't just discover one song, They discover an entire body of work that continues to generate revenue long after release. As his audience expanded, so did his booking opportunities. From local stages to major festivals such as Essence Festival, and later to international appearances, live shows became both a source of income and a multiplier for his brand. Every performance increased demand, streaming activity, and long-term earning potential. Beyond music and performance, LaReezy's visual presence has added another layer of value. His music videos, known for authenticity and storytelling, have generated millions of views across social platforms. That visibility opens doors to monetization through ad revenue, partnerships, and future brand collaborations. Even when deals are selective, visibility itself is an asset, one that compounds influence and leverage. Merchandise and direct-to-fan sales further strengthen his financial independence. By maintaining a close relationship with his audience, LaReezy has been able to convert support into sustainable income without over-reliance on external gatekeepers. This model doesn't always make the loudest headlines, but it builds something more durable, a career that can sustain itself. What makes LaReezy's net worth particularly interesting is that much of it exists in intangibles. His catalog, his brand, his audience trust, and his creative autonomy all carry long-term value that isn't reflected in quick estimates. At his age and stage, wealth isn't about peak earnings, it's about trajectory, and his trajectory points upward. Industry observers often describe LaReezy as an artist who thinks beyond the moment. He has spoken openly about not wasting opportunities, about treating every song as meaningful, and about building something that lasts. That mindset extends naturally into finances. Rather than chasing short-term payouts, his career reflects long-term positioning. So while an exact dollar figure remains unknown, LaReezy's net worth is best understood as growing, diversified, and still in formation. It is the product of ownership, consistency, and intention. And perhaps most importantly, it is not the end goal. It is a byproduct of a career built with purpose. In LaReezy's case, the real value isn't just what he has earned so far, it's what he has positioned himself to earn next. When people imagine success, they often picture mansions, large gates, long driveways, quiet rooms far removed from the noise of struggle. For LaReezy, the idea of mansions has never been about luxury alone. It has been about distance. Distance from limitation. Distance from survival mode. Distance from the version of life that once felt unavoidable. Coming from New Orleans, LaReezy grew up understanding that space itself is a privilege. Privacy, ownership, and stability are things you earn, not things you inherit by default. So when the conversation turns to mansions, it isn't about excess, it's about arrival. It's about what happens when intention finally meets opportunity. At this stage of his career, LaReezy does not publicly own sprawling estates or multi-million-dollar homes. What he does own, however, is the blueprint. His music, visuals, and interviews consistently reflect a future-focused mindset, one where success is not temporary, but rooted in longevity. I wonder if we will have something to talk about concerning his car collection. The first cars in LaReezy's story weren't parked behind velvet ropes. They were part of the neighborhood soundtrack, engines idling at red lights, bass lines rattling windows, summer heat rolling through open windows when the AC didn't work. Years later, even as his name grew louder, that memory stayed with him. The feeling of wind through a half-cracked window and a mind moving faster than the city around him. He climbed onto hoods and rooftops long before he had stages of his own, turning steel and sun into a spotlight the city couldn't ignore. In New Orleans magazine profiles, the image repeats. The kid performing on top of his mother's car grows into the artist still rapping on cars in videos seen by hundreds of thousands. It wasn't a stunt, it was a declaration. Use what you have, make it speak. Ask about his car collection today, and you won't find auction blocks or registration lists. You'll find moments. A rooftop silhouette against a New Orleans sky. A moving shot through a neighborhood that raised him. A verse that turns a ride into a ritual. Publicly, there's no verified fleet to inventory, no glossy spread announcing new keys and titles, only the recurring presence of cars as tools, totems, and temporary stages in a larger journey. That's not speculation, it's what the profiles, videos, and interviews show. Performance, purpose, and motion, without a paper trail of exotic ownership. And yet, the road ahead is visible. Each release, each show, each cosign widens the lane. If a collection ever exists behind a gate, it will be earned the same way the music was, piece by piece, mile by mile, verse by verse. This brings us to the last chapter, his personal life. LaReezy's personal life has never been about spectacle. It lives quietly beneath the music, shaping it rather than competing with it. Away from stages and studio lights, Kyrie Salahuddin moves with intention, guided by principles formed long before recognition ever followed him. Family sits at the center of that foundation. From an early age, the influence of home was constant, not just as a place, but as a source of grounding. The lessons he carries aren't always spoken directly, but they echo through his discipline, his humility, and the way he talks about responsibility. Even as his world expands, there's a clear sense that he remains rooted in where he comes from, never distancing himself from the people and values that shaped him. Faith and reflection play a quiet but meaningful role in his personal life. Rather than presenting himself as flawless or untouchable, LaReezy openly acknowledges uncertainty, growth, and the ongoing work of becoming better. His lyrics and interviews suggest a young man who spends time in self-examination, who understands that peace is not found in noise, but in alignment. This inward focus has helped him navigate pressure without losing perspective. Despite rising visibility, LaReezy is known for living simply. He has spoken candidly about still being close to home, about not rushing milestones for appearance's sake, and about choosing stability over illusion. In a culture that often equates success with immediate excess, his restraint stands out. It's a reflection of patience, not limitation, a belief that timing matters as much as talent.